Well, final preparations are underway at the University of Utah for the only vice presidential debate this election season. Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris will go head-to-head in just about 3 hours. And right now, safety is a big concern. On the debate stage, Pence and Harris will be 12 feet apart and separated by plexiglass. These changes come after President Trump and more than a dozen White House officials have tested positive for COVID-19. Vice President Pence has tested negative repeatedly, but his press secretary, Katie Miller, did leave Utah yesterday out of an abundance of caution. Her husband tested positive.
CBS 2 is bringing you team coverage of tonight's vice presidential debate throughout this newscast.
CBS 2's Trevor Fay is live in Meridian with your invitation to 670 KBOI Radio's Debate Watch Party. But first, national political correspondent Scott Thuman is in Salt Lake City with a debate preview.
As the stage inside is set for Wednesday's debate, the changes outside expected to have real impact. Early voting is already underway in multiple states, roughly half the country seeing an increase in coronavirus cases, and the president himself infected sits in quarantine at the White House, meaning this showdown between Vice President Pence and Senator Harris takes on elevated importance.
We are in a situation where we have the two oldest presidential nominees who have ever run for office facing off against one another. We are in the midst of a pandemic.
As a result, plexiglass barriers will be used to further separate the candidates who already may seem worlds apart on policy.
It is a kind of difficult dance, and we are in this moment where Vice President Mike Pence was the head of the coronavirus task force. The Democrats are absolutely focused on the administration's response to the coronavirus pandemic.
Republicans plan to portray Harris as the most liberal senator in Washington and who could very well become president.
According to Rasmussen poll, 59% of Americans do not believe that Joe Biden could finish his first term in office. I think that's an astounding lack of confidence in Joe Biden, and that means then a President Harris. And so I think the American people need to take a very serious, hard look at what a President Harris would mean for this country. So the stakes are elevated.
Plenty of anticipation on that front. You've got reporters who've complained about a lack of access to her. There are supporters who'd like to see more of her in a larger, they think, more beneficial role on the campaign trail. And then, of course, critics who'd like more chances to challenge her. They'll all get 90 minutes of Senator Harris and, of course, Vice President Mike Pence tonight. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
KBOI Radio is hosting a vice presidential debate watch party.
That's right. Here at the Harp, people are beginning to trickle in for tonight's vice presidential debate. I spoke with some of the crew inside, and they tell me they're expecting a packed house similar to what they saw last week during the first presidential debate. And of course, just as with the debate this evening, safety is encouraged, and you are free to wear a mask if you choose. There will also be plenty of seating inside the bar, but make sure to get here early because, again, if it's anything like last week, we may be looking at standing room only by the time the debate starts. Now, before we get to that stage, I'm going to be walking around inside a bit and getting some interviews from folks to see what they're expecting for tonight's debate. Be sure to tune in at 4:30 and 5:30 to see those interviews, and I'll be back with more in just a bit. In Meridian, Trevor Fay, CBS 2 News.
And once again, Trevor will be following this debate, getting reaction as the evening progresses. Be sure and watch for his reports here on CBS 2 News. The debate itself starts at 7 o'clock. It will air on CBS 2 News. It will also live stream on idahonews.com. And you can follow along on Facebook and Twitter as well. And for breaking news alerts, it's straight to your to download the CBS 2